The Cleveland Cavaliers had a 99.9% chance to win Game 1. They were up 93-71 with just 7:49 left in the fourth quarter. No joke, I left my room for a few minutes to make food, came back, and suddenly the New York Knicks were right back in the fight like the whole game had flipped upside down. And what makes this even crazier is that just 1 year ago, on this same stage, in almost the exact same situation, it was the Knicks getting their hearts crushed. This time, though, New York snatched the moment back for themselves. Game 1 showed 5 massive reasons why this team could seriously end up in the NBA Finals, and the last reason might decide the entire series. The first reason is simple. Jalen Brunson is still the ultimate emergency button in the NBA. Because for most of this game, New York honestly did not look comfortable at all. This wasn't the smooth-flowing Knicks offense everybody watched in the first 2 rounds. Cleveland completely changed the energy of the game with that double big lineup. Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen had the paint locked down with layers of rim protection. Josh Hart was getting ignored off the ball, and the Karl Anthony Towns offensive actions just were not hitting the same. Early on, I kept sitting there thinking, yep, this is going to turn into a Jalen Brunson series. Towns wasn't only dealing with Mobley defending him straight up, he also had Allen lurking around the paint because Cleveland didn't respect Hart's spacing. Since the Cavs basically start 2 centers together, somebody is always waiting near the basket. That completely wrecked a lot of the Knicks' cutting actions and easy interior looks. And honestly, when everything gets ugly like that, sometimes the answer is not complicated at all. Just give Brunson the ball and move out the way. Let him fire up close to 30 shots and live with the results. That was the feeling early in the game, and eventually that became the entire comeback story. Everything shifted once Brunson started attacking the paint aggressively. First, he got inside, stopped on 2 feet, and dropped a slick pass to Towns for the reverse finish. Then he attacked Dean Wade downhill and finished a brutal left-handed shot off the glass. After that, Cleveland started letting him switch onto James Harden, and once that happened, it felt like the same nightmare kept replaying over and over for the Cavaliers. Brunson got the switch onto Harden, drove into his body, stopped, pump faked, faded toward the baseline, and banked it home off the glass. Next trip down, same matchup again. Brunson attacked toward the free throw line, rose up calmly, and buried the jumper. That shot cut the lead to 10, and this was the exact moment I walked back into the room wondering what chaos I had missed. Then Brunson hunted Harden again. Allen actually contested the shot pretty well, but Brunson still somehow flipped in another ridiculous banker. At that point, Cleveland looked completely rattled. Then came the biggest shot of the night. Bridges moved up to force Harden onto Brunson one more time. Cleveland allowed the clean switch again for some reason, and Brunson instantly made them pay. He rose up and drilled a cold-blooded pull-up 3 to cut the lead to 5. That shot completely changed the energy inside the building. You could feel the panic starting to hit Cleveland. Yeah, Mobley answered with a huge 3 on the other end, and for a second it looked like the Cavs might still survive. But by then, Brunson had already caught fire, and once he gets rolling like that, the whole game changes fast. And that leads to the second reason the Knicks might seriously be headed to the NBA Finals. Cleveland had absolutely no reliable answer once Brunson took over. I don't just mean Cleveland made one bad decision late in the game. I mean they genuinely never found a defensive plan they could survive with. For long stretches, their strategy looked like, James Harden, please bail us out. And that is a terrifying place to be when Jalen Brunson is cooking inside Madison Square Garden. Possession after possession, it turned into Brunson hunting Harden over and over again. Brunson, Harden, Brunson, stop. And every single time, Brunson looked more comfortable. He was tearing that matchup apart. Earlier in the game, Brunson was getting those switches mostly in the post. The thing is, Harden is actually pretty strong physically, so that wasn't where the huge advantage showed up. But once Brunson started isolating him out near the top of the floor with space around him, the whole game changed instantly. Harden simply could not stay in front of him consistently. Brunson kept getting downhill, stopping on a dime, creating space, and knocking shots down from everywhere. Everybody watching could see what was happening. The crowd saw it. The Knicks saw it. The broadcasters saw it. Somehow the Cavaliers kept allowing it anyway. Now, the double-team conversation is a little complicated because it's not fair to act like Cleveland never tried it. They did send extra help at times. The problem was the timing and execution were a complete mess. When the Cavs doubled Brunson, New York immediately got cleaner looks elsewhere. Bridges knocked down a corner three. Landry Shamet hit that wild bounce shot from the corner that somehow dropped through. Every adjustment Cleveland made just seemed to create another problem somewhere else. Honestly, it felt like the Cavaliers were stuck in quicksand defensively. Nothing looked comfortable. Nothing looked under control. But this is also where game management matters so much. Cleveland still had a 6-point lead with only 1 minute and 28 seconds left. If they had stayed disciplined and forced Brunson into tough twos instead of panicking, New York probably would have needed 3 separate scores just to tie the game. That's hard to pull off in under 2 minutes. Instead, Cleveland chose the worst possible moment to aggressively double-team. That opened the door for the Knicks to fire away from 3, meaning they suddenly only needed 2 shots to erase the deficit. And that is exactly what happened. The Cavs waited way too long to adjust, and once they finally reacted, they basically handed New York the fastest possible route back into the game. That decision completely flipped the pressure onto Cleveland, and from there, they looked shaken. But honestly, what happened on the other side of the floor might have been even more frustrating for Cavaliers fans. Brunson had 5 fouls late in the game, and Cleveland barely attacked him. They had a golden opportunity sitting right there and barely used it. Harden finally went at Brunson once, got to his mid-range jumper, and gave the Cavaliers a 2-point lead near the end of regulation. For a few seconds, it looked like he had rescued them. Then Brunson came right back down the court, targeted Harden again, floated one softly off the glass, and tied the game to force overtime. Absolute chaos. And you can't help but wonder what happens if Cleveland attacked Brunson earlier. Imagine if they forced him into another defensive possession or picked up that 6th foul a few trips sooner. There's a real chance this comeback never even happens. Then we get to the third reason the Knicks might seriously be headed toward the NBA Finals. They won this game without even running their real offense properly. Now, Knicks fans should absolutely celebrate this win because it was insane. Madison Square Garden was probably shaking like an earthquake after that comeback. New York fans had every reason to lose their minds, but at the same time, this wasn't the smooth Knicks offense that made them look terrifying in the first 2 rounds. This game was won mostly because Jalen Brunson transformed into Captain Clutch when everything started collapsing around him. Bridges made some tough shots. Shamet got that lucky bounce 3 to fall. OG Anunoby made important plays during overtime. But overall, the Knicks only had 20 assists on 42 made baskets. That tells you this game became more about surviving huge moments than flowing offensively. That means fewer than half of the Knicks' made shots were actually assisted. And that's a huge change from what New York had looked like earlier in these playoffs. Normally, this team has been moving the ball beautifully. The passing was sharp, the cutters were getting easy looks at the rim, Karl Anthony Towns was operating like an offensive quarterback, and Jalen Brunson didn't have to carry every single possession by himself. But in this game, everything changed once the pressure got heavy. The Knicks basically hit the emergency button and went straight back to Brunson ball. It turned into, give him the ball, clear out, and hope he catches fire. Thankfully for New York, Brunson absolutely exploded when they needed him most. Still, this is not the type of offense you want to rely on every night if you're trying to survive a long playoff series. Asking one guy to save every possession over and over is dangerous, even when that guy is Jalen Brunson. If the Knicks want to control this series properly, they need to get back to the style that made them look unstoppable earlier in the playoffs. The ball movement, spacing, cutting, and overall rhythm have to return. That free-flowing offense is what made defenses panic in the first place. Now, Cleveland does deserve credit because their defensive setup caused real problems for New York for most of the night. The double big lineup with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen completely changed the floor spacing. Allen ignoring Josh Hart on the perimeter clogged everything up near the basket. Then, with Mobley already defending Towns, New York suddenly had nowhere to attack comfortably. Every driving lane looked crowded. Every cut looked harder. The Knicks' offense started feeling tight and uncomfortable instead of smooth and dangerous. And the stat sheet really shows how much Cleveland affected Karl Anthony Towns. He finished with 13 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists, so he still contributed in some ways. But 7 turnovers and only 1 made three-pointer on 5 attempts tells the bigger story. Cleveland made life miserable for him offensively. Honestly, this game should scare the Cavaliers because they still lost, despite having a defensive plan that worked for most of 3 quarters. They actually had New York looking stuck for long stretches. The problem came late, when everything suddenly turned into the Stop Jalen Brunson challenge, and Cleveland completely fell apart trying to solve it. Once Brunson took over, the Cavs looked out of answers. Then we get to the 4th reason the Knicks might really be headed back to the NBA Finals. This team still had another adjustment left to make. If this were last year's Knicks, Josh Hart probably stays on the floor no matter what happens. And to be clear, Hart still brings toughness, energy, and hustle every single night. But this just wasn't his game. Cleveland was practically begging him to shoot from outside. They left him wide open constantly, and because those shots weren't falling, the spacing completely collapsed. Every time Allen ignored Hart and camped near the paint, it made life harder for Brunson, Towns, and every cutter trying to get inside. Defensively, Hart also didn't have his usual impact. It just felt like one of those nights where his normal strengths never fully showed up. He still finished with 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, so it's not like he disappeared entirely. But shooting 1 for 5 from deep and ending the game at -23 is rough in a playoff battle like this. And that's why this matchup feels completely different from what New York dealt with against the Hawks or the Sixers earlier in the postseason. Cleveland's size and defensive structure forced different decisions. A lot of coaches would stubbornly stick with the starting lineup no matter what. That old-school mentality has been part of the Knicks' identity for years. Some people admire it because it shows loyalty and toughness. But Mike Brown is willing to shake things up when something clearly isn't working. He's not afraid to change rotations, pull players, or adjust the flow of the game if it gives his team a better chance to survive. Mike Brown made the move to Landry Shamet late in the game, and that single adjustment completely changed the floor for New York. Suddenly, Jalen Brunson finally had proper spacing around him instead of constantly running into traffic. And Shamet wasn't just standing in the corner doing cardio either. He actually held up pretty well defensively against Donovan Mitchell at times, and of course, he delivered the massive shot that tied the game late. That moment completely shifted the pressure inside the arena. Shamet finished with 9 points, shot a perfect 3 for 3 from deep, and somehow ended up plus 25 in only 17 minutes. That is not some tiny rotation detail. That is one lineup adjustment completely flipping the game upside down. For most of the night, Cleveland had been working hard to crowd Brunson and shrink the floor. The second Shamet entered and started knocking shots down, the spacing opened right back up. And suddenly the Knicks offense looked dangerous again. Then we get to the 5th reason the Knicks might seriously be heading to the NBA Finals. This kind of loss can completely destroy the emotional balance of a playoff series. Anybody saying, "Oh, Cleveland just gave one away, they'll be fine," probably didn't fully understand how brutal this collapse really was. This wasn't a normal Game 1 loss. The Cavaliers had a 99% chance to win this game and still lost it anyway. That sticks with a team mentally. Losses like this don't feel like one game. They feel like 2 losses at the same time. And honestly, if Cleveland drops Game 2 after this, the pressure could become overwhelming fast. You could already see the frustration on their faces walking off the court. Donovan Mitchell's final stat line still looked strong with 29 points, 6 steals, and 12 for 23 shooting from the field. But the scary part is how quiet he became late in the game. Through 3 quarters, Mitchell already had 26 points on 11 of 17 shooting. From the start of the 4th quarter through overtime, he scored only 3 points while shooting 1 for 6. That drop-off changed everything once New York started making its push. James Harden is also going to take a ton of criticism after this game, and honestly, it's understandable. He finished with 15 points on 5 of 16 shooting, missed 7 of his 8 threes, and turned the ball over 6 times. That means he had more turnovers than made field goals. And defensively, New York targeted him over and over again once Brunson got rolling. The Knicks knew exactly where they wanted to attack. Still, this collapse cannot just fall on Mitchell and Harden alone. Cleveland as an entire group has to own what happened here. There has to be way more discipline and accountability after a loss like this. The Cavaliers turned the ball over 21 times, and the Knicks scored 28 points directly off those mistakes. That stat basically tells the whole story. Even while Cleveland's defense worked for long stretches, even while Mitchell was lighting it up, even while New York struggled badly to score through the first 3 quarters. The Cavaliers kept handing the Knicks free opportunities to stay alive, and eventually, those mistakes came back to crush them in historic fashion. The Knicks ended up pulling off the largest playoff comeback since 1970, which is absolutely insane considering how dead this game looked entering the fourth quarter. Madison Square Garden turned into total chaos by the end of the night. And speaking of 1970 records getting smashed, the other conference finals game had history too. Wembanyama also broke a record that had stood since 1970. If you want to see exactly what record he shattered, check out the full breakdown video right now.